let us learn about direct and indirect speech. We may report the words of a speaker in two ways. Number one, direct speech. Number two, indirect speech. Direct speech describes when something is being repeated exactly as it was, usually in between a pair of inverted commas. When we quote a person's actual words, this is called direct speech. Indirect speech will still share the same information, but instead of expressing someone's comments or speech by directly repeating them, it involves reporting or describing what was said by without quoting the person's exact words. This is called indirect speech or reported speech. Look at the first sentence. Ravi said, "I'm very busy now." This is the example of direct speech. Look at the second sentence. Ravi said that he was very busy then. This is the example of indirect speech. It will be noticed that in direct speech we use inverted commas to mark off the exact words of the speaker, but in indirect speech we do not. It will be further noticed that in changing the above direct speech into indirect speech, certain changes have been made. Thus, we habitually use conjunction that before the indirect speech. We do change the pronoun into person. That is, the pronoun I is changed to he. We do change present tense to a past tense. That is, the verb am is changed to was. We do change the adverb now to be then. Let us look at the rules for changing direct speech into indirect speech. When the reporting or the verb is in the past tense, then all present tenses of the direct are changed into the corresponding past tenses. Rule number 1. A simple present becomes a simple past. Example, he said, "I am unwell." This is direct speech. He said that he was unwell. This is indirect speech. Rule number 2. A present continuous becomes a past continuous. He said, "My master is writing letters." This is in direct speech. He said that his master was writing letters. This is in indirect speech. Let us now look at the third rule. A present perfect becomes a past perfect. He said, "I have passed the examination." This sentence is in direct speech. Now let us look at the same sentence in indirect speech. He said that he had passed the examination. The modal verb shall in the future tense is changed into should. Similarly, the modal verb will in the future tense is changed into would or should. The simple past in the direct speech becomes the past perfect in the indirect speech. Let's see the example. He said the horse died in the night. It's in the direct speech. Now let's see in direct speech. He said that the horse had died in the night. The tenses in the sentence may not change if the statement is relevant or if it is an universal truth. We can often choose whether to keep the original tenses or change them. Let's see the example. Direct speech. "I know her address," said Gopi. The same sentence in the indirect speech. Gopi said he knows or he knew her address. I will show you one more example. Direct speech. "German is easy to learn," she said. In indirect speech, she said German is easy to learn or she said German was easy to learn. The past tense is often used when it is uncertain if the statement is true or when we are reporting them. Words expressing nearness in time or place are generally changed into words expressing distance. Now becomes then, here becomes there, Ago becomes before, thus becomes so, today becomes that day, tomorrow becomes the next day, yesterday becomes the day after, last night becomes the night before. I will show you one example from this. Sentence is in direct speech. He said, I am glad to be here this evening. In indirect speech, he said that he was glad to be there this evening. Keep in mind that the changes does not occur if the speech is reported during the same time or at the same place. Let me show you example. The sentence in direct speech, he says, I am glad to be here this evening. Sentence in indirect speech, he says, he is glad to be here that evening. Similarly, this and these are changed to that and those. Now, let us look about reported speech interrogatives. In indirect speech, the reporting verb is asked or inquired. If the question starts with verbs like be forms, do forms, have or auxiliary verbs, then the reporting verb is followed by if or whether. Let us look at the example. Example 1. The boy said, do you have ballpoint pens here? Indirect sentence. The boy asked if he had ballpoint pens there. Example 2. The mother said to her daughter, when will you come back? The mother asked her daughter when she would come back. In reporting questions, the indirect speech occurs with WH question, that is interrogatives. Commands and request. In reporting commands and request, the indirect speech is introduced by some verbs. That is, when we convert exclamatory sentences, the reporting verb is exclaimed. For request, it is requested, and for imperative sentences, it is ordered. Let me show you examples for it. He said, what a lovely scene it is. He exclaimed happily that it was a lovely scene. Example 2. Bring me a cup of coffee, said the master to the servant. The master ordered the servant to bring him a cup of coffee. Example 3. He said to him, please wait here till I return. He requested him to wait there till he returned. Example 4. Call the first witness, said the judge. The judge commanded them to call the first witness. Example 5. He shouted, let me go. He shouted to them to let him go. Example 6. He said, be quiet and listen to my words. He urged them to be quiet and listen to his words. Example 7. He said, bravo, you have done well. He applauded him, saying that he had done well. Now let us see example of direct speech converting to indirect speech and indirect speech turning to direct speech. I will show you two examples for each. Example 1. The prince said, it gives me great pleasure to be here this evening. The prince said that it gave him great pleasure to be there that evening. Example 2. He said, I shall go as soon as it is possible. Now, let us see indirect speech into direct speech. Example 1. He inquired whether his name was not Ahmed. He said to him, is your name not Ahmed? Example 2. He exclaimed sadly that he was not undone. He said, alas, I am undone. Hope this lecture helped you to learn about direct speech and indirect speech. Stay tuned to learn more grammar units. Thank you.